Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm excited to be talking about the fantastic series Such Brave Girls with creator, showrunner, and actor Kat Sadler. And one of the things I was interested about in how this show initially came together when you were writing it is you've described how you would start writing notes of things that your mum and your sister would say. And I was interested in how just like you then took those ideas and those notes and started really fleshing it out into the idea of a pilot episode and ultimately a full series.
Oh my God, good question. I wrote basically so much on my phone. So I had this huge document, like basically like a fact file of each character or like what would become the characters. And then I had this room. Luckily, the production company gave me a little office and I filled the room with post-it notes. It was round the walls, like, and I had every post-it note had a different color, was a different character. So like I would kind of build it out from there and then like be like, okay, that's about that theme. So like it ended up being that I think most episodes now have like a theme that I could then kind of condense all the ideas. So there's like one about motherhood, like one about like particularly about money or like whatever, friendship. And then so I would kind of categorize and then sort of try and build a story around that. So it's probably quite a slow way to do it, but it just helped me fit the most jokes than I could possibly do.
And that's so interesting that you were kind of structuring each episode in season one around a theme. And for season two, was it the idea of a theme again? But also, I feel like you've taken these characters outside of the house so much more. You know, it's like, okay, this episode, we're taking our mum to afternoon tea. This episode, we're on a boat.
Totally, because I think my favorite ones of like season one were like, or I feel like I am best when I've got my characters trapped somewhere. And like so I was like super interested in being like, okay, let's do more of that. Like let's figure out like funny environments I can like trap them and like keep things going. Because I do think that's exciting for me as a writer is like kind of like being keeping the prison as small as possible and working out how much story I can get out of one space. So yeah, I think one's like all in a wedding, isn't it? And then four's all on a boat. So and the cream tea. So it's kind of yeah, that's kind of my jam. Is like making sure I'm like keeping myself tight because I don't want to go expand too far out. But then also I wanted to prove that the show could go to places you might not expect. Like, so it was kind of like with season two, I wanted to be more ambitious and be like, okay, let's go to a casino and like, let's go on a boat. Like, why not? Like, just to prove that you can.
That idea of keeping the characters physically constrained is quite fun too, because even the house and the place that they live kind of really does that in of itself. And I noticed that a lot of scenes in the bathroom kind of tend to be very open amongst the three women because it's the one place that they can go, and the men who are living there can't follow them through the door. And was that something that you were intentional about when you were first setting it all up?
Definitely, like I always knew that I wanted to have that bathroom be like the epicenter of it, like the kind of nucleus of where everything happens, just because that's the reality. Like when I lived with mum and my sister, like it would be like, one of us on the toilet, one of us in the bath, one of us brushing our teeth. Like it would always be that way. Like this kind of, I just feel like people gravitate to there. Or women, like in an all-female household, you kind of just do, like, 'cause that's just where all this stuff happens. Like, so we were just always in this. So that was kind of the priority. It was like building out from there. Like, okay, every time there's like a scene where the characters are making a plan, it's always in the bathroom.
And in shaping season two, it sounds like you literally sat down and interviewed your mum and your sister before kind of diving into all of it for, again, to mine them for ideas. And I was just really interested in what were some of the things that you were kind of like setting up or asking them with having it feel a bit more structured in your conversations versus just season one where you just observed them and quietly made notes on your own.
Well, I kind of like I wanted to find out things that maybe they hadn't told me that I'd missed from growing up because I think you get lots of things hidden from you as kids, like because that's like the kind thing to do. Like you don't want to expose a child to like how much stress you're under. So with Mama, it kind of said to her like, "What's the most financial stress you've been in? Like, what's the worst it got? Like, tell me the truth." And like so she was super honest with me about that feeling, and she said she like described. I was like, "What did it feel like when you were in that much debt?" And she was like, it feels like you're trapped under a sheet of ice and you're screaming for help and no one can hear you. And I was like, oh my God, like I really wanted to try and capture that stress for her. So that was like, it was mainly asking about that money stuff because that's so important to make it feel real and authentic because I don't want it to ever seem like I'm taking an experience that's not mine. And I wanted it to feel like authentic. So it was kind of just like about getting details. I'm very detail obsessed. I feel like that's what makes it feel real and makes the watcher go along with it because they understand.
And also, it's not something that you're just using as a plot device. You're kind of using it for real character development with Deb, who is the mum in the series, because it also really foundationally sets her up for how she interacts with men and how she views relationships. And so, once you kind of realized that that was going to be a central part of the show, how did you figure out the way that that was going to seep into her as a character and her viewpoint?
Exactly. And like the kind of main themes of the show are always love and money, and I just really leaned into that more in season two, and it was sort of like I wanted every character's plot to be inspired by like the dynamics between love and money and like where that leaves you. And that's why there's kind of like the story about like this sugar baby thing, and like Josie's kind of constrained by money, she can't get out, and then she wants to be go to like a private hospital to get sections in the penthouse suite, like, and then like Deb is chasing money, so it's kind of like the way money holds people back from their like goals and dreams. Like it was like a huge theme for me.
And you were so protective of the way that you created this show, the tone of it, and these characters. And I know that season one, there were people kind of trying to encourage you to soften the edges a little bit. But now that you have kind of proven the concept and really protected that, did you feel like you were almost able to sharpen it a little bit more for this season?
Sharpen it, but that is, you know, that stuff still doesn't go away. And it's almost like the more people, the more success that you get, the more pressure there is to try and appeal to a wider audience. So like I feel like I got some of the benefit of the doubt, and I definitely think if I put my foot down about something, people are less likely to push back than they did in season one. But I do think there is this pressure. I just think because TV is in such a precarious place that there is this impetus to try and be like, how do I appeal to like a much wider audience? So we still had conversations about like you know, likability and all these things that I'm not interested in, like, and figuring out like how do you bypass that, and like it does, I don't know, maybe season three or whatever, if we get one, that we can prove that like it's like it doesn't matter if you understand characters, you can go anywhere with them. But yeah, it's strange to feel that pressure still.
It's interesting too, because I almost feel like the beauty of the show is the fact that it gets so specific that even if someone hasn't gone through the specific circumstances of a character, they understand the emotional impact or the feeling of things. And is that something that you've kind of felt and discovered in the way that people watch it as well?
I think so. I think that's why people know it's coming from the right place, because they can see the level of detail and reality that has gone into it. And like I think that makes you feel comfortable to go along the journey. Like you just know when you watch something and the writer hasn't experienced that, or the writer hasn't got a real sense of it. You can smell it like when you're watching, and it just takes you out of it. And I think that was so important to not have that feeling. Like I want someone to be like feel like they're sat on the toilet with us, you know, like I don't want them to feel like they're watching a play.
And with your character, with Josie, you know, towards the end of season one, we kind of saw her coming out to her mum, and it seemed like her mum actually heard her for once and encouraged her to drive away from Seb at the petrol station. But then we come back at the beginning of season two, and all of a sudden they're actually getting married in season two. And she's not walking away from it either, which is brilliant comedy. How did you want that set up to just kind of really reflect so much of how Josie just never feels completely heard by her family and never really listened to at any point?
Totally. And like I think I am a huge fan of subverting expectations. Like that's kind of always on my mind when I'm writing, is like I never want to be someone that you can like predict what's going to happen. So like I knew, I feel like shows always have a finale of a wedding, and I was like, right, I'm opening with a wedding. And like I think people thought that maybe Josie's grown or she's like changed, and she's free of Seb, and it's like nope, I think it's worse. Like because that's always my game, is how do I make things worse for these characters. And like that was my challenge and fun. And I feel like you just with sitcom, I feel like the best sitcoms never let their characters grow. Like they never let them really change that much. They can't learn too much, or they'll realize the situation they're in. So like it's about sort of keeping them constantly trapped. So that's the challenge, is like, okay, drag them back down. How do we do that? Like
There's also something hilarious about the fact that she ultimately ends up agreeing, oh, if I go through with the wedding, then I can go hang out with this girl that I've got a crush on by 2 o'clock. It's quicker to get married to him and be tied to him for life. And what was it that created that setup and that idea for you? Because it's so brilliant.
I think I really wanted to, I know it's so dumb, but I think I was really drawn to the idea of doing a bottle episode for the first one, because like I wanted to do a wedding, but I also knew that I think wedding episodes of stuff usually I don't think there's anything new to say. So like it was about, I wanted to try and capture like the 20 minutes before the wedding, and like what has led to Josie walking down the aisle. That was what was interesting to me. So like that when I sort of, okay, I'm going to confine it, so it's like it is from the arrival to the decision to go do it, was like the bit I was trying to capture. So then it was like, okay, can I put like a ticking clock on it to make it feel rushed? So then I was like, okay, I'm going to have it be that she's going to try and she wants to go to this thing afterwards, and she's not going to tell anybody. So then it just came about building out, okay, how do you make that feel like it's full of stakes and make it kind of believable? Like, so it was kind of trying to make people go along with what is essentially like nearly a real-time bottle episode, you know?
And even to your point about not wanting the characters to ever really grow or learn too much, with Billie, she had her whole obsession with her on and off boyfriend, Nikki, in season one. And it kind of seemed like he'd gone away, but then you've brought him back in as a great narrative tool as well. What made you realize that it was going to be such a great idea to bring him back and to kind of repeat some of those cycles between the two of them?
I just I really liked the character of Nikki, and I didn't want that to be the end of the story with them. And like I wanted to have a secret for Billie that she's been keeping. And I love keeping secrets from each other as like a story for the characters. Like I love that when someone's got something on someone else. So I love the idea that she's been doing that all the way and we didn't know. And like I feel like that's so Billie. So it was kind of like, okay, when is the worst possible time to deploy Nikki? And so it just felt like at the end of three, it felt like this is when we bring it back. And also like I think if you have too many new characters, it stops feeling like a sitcom. So it was like I wanted to kind of bring back familiar people that we know so that we know it's like kind of the same world. So it's sort of like working out the window to deploy him. But yeah, that was such a fun. I remember giving that script to my sister and because she reads him before anyone else and she was like gasped when she saw that he was in the bedroom in the last and I was like, that's perfect. That's all I want.
Is that idea of not wanting to introduce too many characters and wanting these ones to feel really familiar, even with the supporting, also part of what's led to the development with Dev and even with Seb, where it feels like Seb should have been written out so many times, but he ultimately never is.
He also never is, and like he is the thing Josie needs to face. Like he's the monster that Josie has to stand up to. And like I think the minute she does, like I don't know, like I feel like Josie won't know what to do with herself then. Like I feel like that's she's gonna come into her power and that almost isn't allowed to happen because I don't know what she'd do. She'd probably never come back. So it's like I think he's the demon and like she just needs to grow and face up to him, but I just feel like she never will. Like so it's kind of like building him out and I loved his chemistry so much. Freddie's Meredith, who's the actor, chemistry with Paul Basley, who plays Dev, their chemistry is so fun and like I love them together. So I just wanted to have more of them. I wanted to put them in situations like having them at work together just felt like it was I knew it was going to be funny.
And it does feel like there are small ways in which Josie has started to stand up to Seb, but it's never concrete enough. There's a point where he's saying something like, I've done so much for you, Josie. And she looks at him and goes, like what?
Yeah.
Which is such a great moment. How do you find that line of allowing her to kind of push back a little, but like you said, never doing it too much because then that changes the narrative too much?
Well, totally. And like that bit was like, yeah, that is the only time she's ever really stood up to him. So like, and it's right at the end of the season finale, isn't it? So it's like we're kind of like seeding what could happen next, like what is going to happen, and like, does she really want it to be over? Is my question because I feel like she kind of enjoys living in this like little misery cycle with him and like the attention that he gives her. So I still don't think I've worked out where I want to take them, like what they do. So I think it was about kind of giving her a little bit of catharsis for the audience because otherwise I think we'd get annoyed at Josie for like why hasn't she said anything, so I wanted to have her like a little bit of joy and like a little bit of a release, and same with the scan in six as well, like when she like really makes him feel bad for like making up the lie about her being pregnant. So I wanted her to have like a little bit of sadistic joy, but yeah, not too much or she'll break as a character.
And with Billie, one of the things that's so comedically great with her as a character is her absolute level of delusion that you allow her to play into. Did you feel like you were able to really kind of ramp that up and find even more ways for that to come into the storyline this season?
Oh, big time. Like with the whole singing like Amy Winehouse thing and the line Nikki's peddled to her and all of that stuff. Like that was I watched I really love I Think You Should Leave. And they had this incredible sketch in like season one, I think, where it's like this guy's been told he was gonna have a record deal and he like kicks off in the thing and it's like just the funniest sketch. And I was like, that level of delusion is so funny. And Lizzie wanted to bring her singing into the show. So I just thought like I would totally believe that if Nikki said he was going to be her manager, I believe she'd believe that and think she's an incredible singer. So it was kind of like capturing that. So that was really fun. And like I knew the minute we did it at the table read, her doing the impression of Amy Winehouse was going to be funny. Like I just couldn't wait. Yeah,
And obviously,
that was
I love that. And obviously, there's such a great gift in casting your sister because you know her so intrinsically well. And you also share the same comedic sensibility because you were raised with that by your mum in the same household. How do you feel like that's really shaped the way that you've written Billie as a character, especially with the second season?
I think it's just like I feel fearless with her that she's going to nail what I give her to do. And like she's also because we have such a good dynamic, she can tweak lines and she'll say like, oh, I actually think my character would be more like this or say this thing, and like they really help. And like we do like we do our mini table reads before we do our big table reads. So me and Lizzie's get the script out and we can do all the voices. Like she does the girls, I do the boys, and like we mix and match, and then like we hear it in our heads so much that I think then we learn, okay, we got to change this. And like it's really important to me to like be able to cover the names, and you know who's talking with if you didn't even have the name above the line. And like so that's like yeah, crucial to the writing of it. So she's very good at helping me with that. Like she's great for that.
I also feel like the costume details between the two sisters are so great because they're so opposing, and especially this season, Josie kind of shows up dressing like she thinks she would dress if she was actually realistically going to art school and not just pretending, you know. And I've heard you say with Lizzie's costumes for playing Billie that you feel like she always needs to be wearing something that's a little bit wrong, but she obviously wears more colorful things and kind of tries to have an idea of fashion, but maybe doesn't quite land it. How did you come up with the initial concepts for the looks for both of them?
Great question. And our costume designer is Sarah Hassan, and she is amazing. She is like the most creative therapist. Like she is like honestly, because it's so much psychology goes into costume design and people don't realize because it's such an unsung job. Like, but you honestly, she'll just read it and she'll kind of know how the character would dress based on like the reading of it and how their psychology behind it. And I think that's so impressive to do that, and also to deal with me and Lizzie, who are like the two most insecure people in the whole wide world, like with so many random issues with our bodies, and she's like has to cater to all of them. So she's like so tolerant as well. But like it was kind of inspired a lot by I love Broad City, and I remember reading an interview with their costume designer and talking about how Alana is similar. Like she kind of always dresses like way too turned up for like what she's going to, and so we kind of like I felt that was quite an inspiring way to look at costume, and we talked about it with Sarah a lot and built out like I think Josie wishes she was more like mask and like more in her like, wish she cut her hair off. And like we kind of hint at that with the gel back look in the start of season 2. So we have like little bits of that. But like, yeah, Josie's a lot more muted, isn't she? And Billie's just like fully out there, like neon, like fur. Like she's very brave.
Because even the way that they both respond to femininity is so different, you know, with what you were just describing about for Josie, it's almost this real burden. And for Billie, it's something that she really wants to utilize and almost weaponize against men. And what is that space for you of just constantly finding the opposing forces of how they can both take the same thing and react very differently to it in the world?
That's such a good observation. I'm so impressed that because I had a chart in my writer's room and I had like Billie, Josie, Deb, and I would write like themes and then I would write what their opposing views are. And one of them was femininity. And it had like Josie, burden, like Billie, weaponized. And then Deb, again, is like also a manipulator of that. Like she likes to strap on her femininity and wear it to ensnare someone. So like I love that you said that. So I had like money, love, men, and then I would kind of like work out the cross section of like why is that different for each person, and like everyone did kind of end up with like a different view, which was such a great way to figure out, okay, how do I do an episode about that then, because that feels like something ripe. Like, and same with mental health, like what's everyone's different perspective on it, like so that was a really good tool in writing.
No, that's great. And even with what you were describing about mental health, and when you look at the two sisters, they both grew up in the same household with the same traumas to a degree, but they again are so different in terms of it. And for Billie, it's like, well, I know that I had a terrible childhood and I'm okay. And she actually almost seems like the happiest out of all of them.
Yeah.
Whereas for Josie, it's something that she really kind of sits with and has made her identity and feels like it's the thing that makes her feel special and important and interesting to other people. How did you kind of really want to use your characters as like a real depth of conversation of the different ways that the same mental health implications can land so differently with different people?
Totally. And I read this thing which was like, if you have siblings like who go through trauma growing up, like one of them will have like spikes like inwards, so they turn it on themselves, and one of them like will have spikes outwards, so they're angry at the world. So it was about like Billy, someone who's very angry at the world. She feels very wronged by it. She feels very owed. Like, and so like everything is always like on her terms, and like she's always trying to get like what she feels like she deserves. Whereas Josie's very angry with herself and like very much resents herself, but also wears this mental health as a big like shield. And I feel like that was something I tried to capture from me, is that I always like dive into that as something that I feel is interesting about myself. And like it's such a weird thing that I think it's like a tick that you sort of develop as almost a way to process it, is because you make it your personality, like if it's so much within you. And then for Deb, it's just like she's not got time for it. Like she'll not engage. Like, so I just wrote no for Deb on that. I was like, no, she's not allowed.
And even with what you just described about Billie really thinks that the world owes her something, so she'll take anything she can get, feels like that's the framework for the accidental sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship, because the guy isn't giving her money for that sort of thing. He's just giving her money to go away and stop pestering him because he wants to end the affair. Was that kind of the framework for you and how you were thinking about it when you conceptualized that idea as a narrative?
Exactly. It'll be like, bad thing happens. How does it become a good thing? Like, so it'll be like, he asks her to leave, he gives her money. Oh, therefore she thinks she's a sugar baby. Like, I feel like the thing is just like always twisting the weird logic of the characters to do something unexpected, but also that they think is for their gain. Like, that's the fun game of the show, is every episode is that's kind of like how I break down each plot line, is to be like, bad thing obstacle happens, but it's actually secretly a good thing because I'm gonna do this with it. Like, that's my challenge.
There's also a lot with the comedy in this show where it's so comedically written, and yet when you look at the performances, you're all performing everything completely straight-faced. It's not something where the characters are acknowledging that that was a joke. Did you have that idea early on in the creation of the series that it always needed to be straight-faced and feel very grounded and true to the characters in that way?
Definitely, nobody's allowed to think anything they're saying is funny or anything anyone else is saying is funny. Like, I think that breaks the show. Like, and I think it's important that it feels. I feel like a lot of the comedy comes from the fact it's like it's low stakes but high drama, and the characters are acting like they're in like the thick of it, or like Succession or something like that. But really, it's about like, does my hair look okay? And like that was like the kind of core of the show. So like, none of the characters are allowed to think it's funny. They have to think it's deathly serious. It's life or death. Actually, do I look good in this?
It also sounds like that's part of how Simon Bird kind of coming on board became the perfect fit as an ongoing director for the show, because I heard that he wrote you a letter after seeing the pilot episode, and the thing that he said was it shouldn't feel like there's a director and it should really be centered on the characters. And was that what made you realize that he really understood the sensibility and the way that you wanted the comedy to be so grounded early on?
100%. And he kind of knew. I think he also sensed that there was a world in which it became more comedy drama, like kind of through the content of the show. And I think he knew to sort of like that I was really allergic to that. And like, I think he kind of knew to back me up on that, and that the jokes were the king, jokes are God. So like, that's what you have to prioritize above all else. So he was such a good person for that. And also because he's got like funny bones, like, we just trusted him to know that we had each take. Like, it was so useful to just look at him. And if he's like this, then you're like, we got it, like, because he just is funny. He's a very funny person.
And the show obviously explores gallows humor to such a level that's so great, because it really is the way that we as humans process so many terrible situations. But this is obviously so many more setups within an episode. And how do you feel like the gallows humor has kind of really set the overall tone of the show for you as well?
I think it just I think it tests the audience at this, from the pilot in the first 30 seconds, it's like, are you in or out? And so I wanted to capture that and capture the way that we talk and really try and get the essence of that across, because I feel like I didn't want to disappoint people who are looking for the reality of the way we talk about mental health and these terrible things. And like, I wanted to give them what they want, and like I wanted to talk about stuff in the way that we talk about it, like truly without that kind of mask of like being, this is a TV show and therefore we can't go too far. Like, so it was just sort of about prioritizing getting that across and like being as dark as we can possibly be without trying. It's not like, I wanted it to come from a real place. I don't want to seem outrageous for outrageous' sake.
Yeah. No, it does. Is it something where almost the dialogue needs to feel grounded so that the circumstances can be much bigger swings of the show?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's very astute.
With Josie as well, I love that you kind of self-describe how you think that she's very narcissistic, but also manipulative. And how do you feel like that really set up a lot of her storylines for season two, where again, you can just lean into all of that even more?
Yeah, it was about digging out the stuff. And I find her the hardest one to write for, because she's like always on the back foot. Like, she's kind of like a victim of her own, like, not doing anything. Like, I'm trying to think of the right word for that, but she's just like, she never really, like, she sort of goes along with things. She gets dragged along on people's plots. She's like Billy's assistant. She sort of does things for Deb. She's a massive people pleaser, and it's quite hard to like think of ways to make a character go, like, when they're such a chronic people pleaser like that. Like, there's usually at the core of sitcoms there'll be someone who's very front-footed. So I think I tried to like turn up her like if you think about it in terms of Peep Show, like I was kind of leaning her more towards like Mark. Like you kind of he's I feel like they're very similar in like the way that they think. Like there's a kind of entitledness to it. There's sort of like an aboveness, like a pretentiousness to her that I sort of wanted to lean into and like figure out ways that she feels owed. Like so it is like this kind of quest for like yeah, feeling like she fits in at the art school even though she's not allowed and like kind of digging into like how she manipulates Seb because she's someone that can never be alone. That's kind of her thing with love is that she struggles to be alone with herself. Like I think that's a mental health thing as well.
That's so funny that you just brought up the correlation between Josie and Mark from Peep Show as well, because now they're both characters who have gotten married because it's more convenient than confronting the truth as well.
Do you know what? I actually watched the episode because I was like wanted to see how they did it because that was such a I love that show so much and like he's also such a victim of compliance I guess like he's just goes along with stuff but he chickens out and that ending is perfection when he does that right or do they go through it and then in the car they both leave to he lives with Jeremy and it's like the perfect ending I can't remember
Yeah,
but
they go through with it because it leads to the Olivia Colman at the soft play going down the side.
oh my God yes good memory but that was I watched the episode like 10 times because I was like I thought that was fascinating so good that show is amazing.
It's brilliant. I also, with season two, it feels like you kind of set yourself up for so many more logistical challenges in the scope that you wrote into the show. You know, going to several locations, having an episode on a boat, adding a cat to the series. What was that experience of finding it more challenging logistically, but also realizing that you had been the one to write yourself into a corner?
Yeah. I think it was, I really wanted to prove that like the show could be bigger than season one. I wanted to like make it feel more ambitious, bigger, like up the stakes, like put us into different environments to see what that's like and like just kind of give the characters like more meaty, like kind of adventures to go on. And like it was a really fun writing challenge for me to like work out, okay, how do I do that and what does that look like? And like I loved doing that in season two. Like it was yeah, a total joy to like be like, okay, what's it like in a casino? Like, or like, yeah, let's film an episode on a boat. Why not? And I love a bottle episode. So I think that's why I'm sort of drawn to that as a writer is like, yeah, trapping the characters.
And I know that you've talked about how in creating this show and kind of really steering the ship, that it was a place that wasn't a natural comfort for you at first in taking that leadership position. And especially even the dynamic of working with your sister, where she's always kind of been more of the alpha of the two of you. How do you feel like after two seasons of this show, you've kind of found more of a natural comfort with that, if you have?
Yeah, we're totally, I feel like we're much more in our element now. Like, as in, I feel like when you have your like tribe of people that you work with, I think because we all came back for season two, there was like such a level of camaraderie that was between us, and we all kind of had a language that we shared. And like, I think that just totally helps, like, because you just trust each other now. Like, I think there was this sort of working out what it was in season one that made everyone like a little bit on edge. And so it's sort of working out like, oh no, it's yeah, we trust each other now. Like, season one came out well. Like now we can do season two, and we're less worried about that. So I think it was just like, and I felt braver. I felt like I put my foot down more on stuff in season two, and I felt able to like have more battles. Like I think when you have a season one under your belt, you can feel more powerful. So it was about getting experience really. But yeah, having Lizzie and Simon as like my little gang, like on set every day, like you can't ask for a better team to work with. Honestly, it was the best.
I love that. It's such a brilliant second season. So thank you so much for talking about it. Congrats again.
Thank you for having me. Great questions. Loved it.